Hello, my fellow Americans. I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And the number one man in the nation on politics, my very good friend who just disappeared. He's back now, Mr. Ray Hanania.
Hey, Bill, for a minute I thought you were talking about the president there, but no, I am Ray Hanania. It is March 6th, 2025, season 4, episode 8 of Two Guys on Politics. Former Congressman Bill Lipinski and I talk about all the issues this week. How could we not talk about President Trump having a joint speech to Congress, Bill? He's only been in there, what, 50 days or so? It may be 50 and he's already just grabbing the reins and bragging. It isn't enough that he already brags about how great he is, but then he got up there for how long? 2 hours
One
yapping?
hour and 59 minutes, the longest speech at a joint
Uh,
session of Congress in history.
I think the only person to give a speech longer than that was Libya's Muammar Gaddafi, who did 2 hours and 20 minutes. So he's getting up there. But so did you watch the speech or did you do
I
like
watched
me?
every, I, I watched every minute of it.
I kind of told my wife that I predicted what it was going to be, a lot of bluster, a lot of boasting, patting himself on the back. But he did talk about a few issues. But the big question, Bill, is this: the reaction of the Democrats, not just to one or two things, but several things. Are they imploding? Is the Democratic Party falling apart? And is that making Trump look even stronger? What's going on?
Well, first of all, I want to comment on the speech itself. I thought the speech was very well written. I thought it was very well delivered. Uh, I have spoken to 13 people, some full Trumpers, some middle of the road, and some who disliked Trump very much. They all felt that the speech was very good. They were all impressed with it. I asked those who are real Trumpers, well, how do you feel about his personality? And they said they did not care what a jerk he was, how reprehensible he was. He's doing the things that they want him to do. So they are very, very happy. Now, as far as the Democrats go, I thought the Democrats were brainless children in what they tried to do,
Yeah,
holding up those silly little, they look like ping pong paddles with various things written on them. Uh, that one member of Congress who got up with his cane, shouting and shouting and complaining, saying that Trump had no mandate. The speaker, I thought, gave him enough chances to calm down, take it easy. He didn't, so they had to escort him out. I'm also very disappointed in the Democrats. I don't think that they stood for anything, did they? Even when they were talking about people who Trump had named things after, or things that people that Trump had done things for, and were right there. There was a young man who has been sick. They didn't even applaud for him. I mean, I thought it was a disgusting display by the Democrats. Obviously, they have no real strategy. As much as I didn't like uh, Nancy Pelosi, I have to say that she always seemed to have a strategy that was worthwhile when she was out of office. So
yeah.
that's my feelings in regards to the situation. I am very surprised at how many people, took the speech as well as they did. I have not found anyone yet uh, that has disliked the speech.
Well, Bill, it's politics is a relative thing. So we're in the gutter right now, and Trump is at the edge of the gutter, looking at on the top, and the Democrats are way below him. He looks so much better than him. I mean, that Al Green, I think, was the congressman. They just censored him today And they voted against him. I think it was 224 to 198, with 10 Democrats joining in censoring Al Green, the guy that raised his cane. And
Very good,
um,
very good.
yeah, so, and then when Trump pointed to the Houston family, I think of Jocelyn Nungaray, a 12-year-old who was sexually assaulted and murdered at the hands of illegal migrants from Venezuela last year, and said he was going to name a wildlife preserve after her. They didn't seem like they cared. They showed no sympathy. It seemed the issue of illegal migrants and illegal aliens was more important than the death of this 12-year-old girl. And I think there was another one that they brought up who was killed last year or 2 years ago by another Venezuelan migrant, Laken Riley. They came across horrible, like they had no strategy, like they assumed that the public hates Trump and they hate Trump, so they don't need to acknowledge anything he's doing. That's a bad strategy, I think.
Well, listen, the public likes many, many, many of the things that Trump is doing. He is on the side of truth, justice, and the American way, the
He
way
says
these
so.
people look at it. Okay, I mean that's the way
That
they do. I mean you can't argue with them, you can't fight with them because
right,
they are absolutely they have blind obedience to President Trump.
right.
So he's in a very enviable position. Plus, there's people like you and I who really, are not very high on his personality. But there are a number of things he has done that we both agree with should have been done. I mean, what Biden and his administration did to allowing all these illegal aliens into this country
Yeah.
over the course of 4 years. What was the point of that? Why were they allowing all of those people in? Is it our job to take care of the entire world by accepting all these illegal aliens? Even we can't do that.
Yeah, I think Biden and the Democrats catered to a small minority of Democrats who were fighting to allow and protect these illegal aliens at the expense of the American people. And I mean, listen, Trump has exposed several flaws that we have in this country. And one of them is the amount of money that we spend on stupid things. That's the problem. And I don't know if tariffs are the answer, but there is an imbalance between our trade with a lot of countries. And sometimes we pay more, sometimes we pay less. I don't like his trade tariff policy to threaten somebody, then back off as a negotiating strategy like he's doing with Mexico. It worries me, and I think it worries the market too. So, yeah, there's some things that he's doing that I think he needs to do right, but there are better ways for him, to balance the trade between Canada, who's our ally, and Mexico. Mexico, despite the border problems we have, is still an ally. Putin is not an ally. We fought against Putin. We fought against communism, and you can't trust those snakes. In the Communist Party, we're not fighting with China. We're not fighting with North Korea. We're not fighting with Iran. And we're not fighting with Russia. We're fighting with our team, and that's the only flaw that I think Trump has. But when I look at this speech, it's clear that the Democrats are falling apart. They're not coming together. They have no strategy. I think they're imploding. They have no good leader to lead them. They've allowed a small group of people to throw their issues like illegal aliens and make that the thing that they're going to fight for. It's crazy. And I think, there's a risk that the Democratic Party could be gone at the end of this 4 years, and there may be
Oh,
another
absolutely.
party. Yeah, it's they're just horrible. But I blame it on Biden. I blame it on Biden. He was a bad president, a nice guy, but the Democrats, instead of doing the right thing, they did things that you would think were not typically Democratic principles. They were always the leader of trying to bring peace to the Middle East, and they never brought peace to the Middle East. They just brought more destruction. Something bad is happening to the Democratic Party, and it's very embarrassing at the national level. I'm not saying the local, state level, or the regional level, where we're at, but at the national level, it was very embarrassing.
Yes, it was very, very embarrassing. Now, I'll tell you, we're sitting here praising Trump and his speech and the content and the delivery. And I'm telling you how many people, I talked to, Trumpers, non-Trumpers, were very supportive of the speech. But I have to say, that part about the Social Security people, okay?
Right.
Someone 135 years of age collecting a Social Security check. I mean, this country isn't that old. So that person, whoever it was, had to become a citizen. I mean, I can't believe that.
I don't either.
These other people that are supposed to be, 150, 140, collecting
300, 300, he said, 300 years old.
That's baloney. That is not true. Social Security has been audited twice by outside firms in the last 4 years, okay? In both of those audits have found that only 1% of the checks being paid out in Social Security are fraudulent. So, I don't like to see him making those kind of presentations. Right. But I will tell you, there was 3 Trumpers that I spoke to, and we talked about the speech and the content of it, and we talked about the border. And then I said to them, what do you think of all those people that are on Social Security? Oh, that's horrible. That's horrible. And they
believe it.
They believe every single word of it. And I said, how can somebody be 350 years of age, and still be collecting Social Security? And their answer, well, they're not. It's a fraud. I says, you realize if a person was that old, they're older than the Republic? Well, they snuck them on somehow. I mean, there is, most of those Trumpers, there's no reasoning with. So you might as well just give up on them. You might as well try to concentrate on the people in the middle. But the Democrats are so poor in their challenging of any of this stuff. I don't know if they're ever going to be able to cut into Trump's strength.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that Social Security thing is hard to believe. And, I don't believe Elon Musk or the Department of Government Efficiency. I think that's all political. They don't want to stop spending. What they want to do is stop spending on things they don't like so they can spend on things they do like. And for example, when they said they're going to cut, I don't know how many thousands of people from the federal government employees, they're going to fire them. You have to justify it. I don't know, maybe they'll save $1 billion, but they're giving $8 billion to Israel, and they're not saving money there. But they are saving money by firing employees, and 40%, 35 to 40% of those federal employees are veterans. Who do you think is going to get hurt? So I'm not sure where the reality needle is in all this. That Social Security thing sounds exaggerated. His claim that he wants to save money for the taxpayers, I don't believe it. He had a few ideas that I thought, I agree. We need to do something about illegal aliens and undocumented residents and illegal migrants, whatever people want to call them. We have to do something. No other country allows people to enter their country illegally and then give them a job, give them money, and protect them in a political way, the way our country, some members of our country do. The whole issue of crime is out of whack. I like the fact that Trump wants to crack down on the criminals who have been taking advantage of the system and beating up on police. I favor that, but it's a mix. And the Democrats just took the focus away from that mix in this speech and put it on themselves and sent a terrible message to anybody that hopes we're going to overcome this. I don't think the Democrats are capable of repairing what's taking place right now to their party and to the country. And that gives Trump the opportunity to do whatever he wants to do, crazy stuff and good stuff.
Well, if the Democrats find some way to retake the House of Representatives when we have these three elections coming up in a fairly short amount of time, I think that could change the ball game considerably. But those state seats that are up are all Republican seats. Excuse me. And I don't see how the Democrats are going to pick up, those seats in order to flip Congress. I don't think it's possible. So you're going to have to wait until the midterm election, and it might be too late for the Democrats by that time. Trump may have done enough things that the American people are in favor of that you can't stop them from voting for any Republican.
Yeah, and
so I agree with you. The Democrats in a very, very bad spot, and I think some sharp political minds should start looking forward to creating another party sometime in the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, and I was just looking up what's the party breakdown. The 221 Republicans, 214 Democrats. Three of those Republicans, one resigned, one died, or I'm sorry, one Democrat died, two Republicans. One of them, Matt Gaetz, took the oath of office did not take the oath of office to return to Congress so he could take that appointment. But they're close, and you would think with numbers that close, 218 to 214, even if we say 220 to 215, those 5 votes in an election, you could overcome it. But this doesn't help make the case. I don't know if I can support the Democrats if this is the way they're going to act. They're being led by a small minority in their party on issues that impact the small minority in the party and the country, and they're abandoning the bigger issues that really impact the American people, the economy, safety, crime. The Democrats don't speak to those issues. I think it's a huge mistake, and they need to get a hold of their party or they're just going to completely lose it.
Well, I think it's a big mistake on their part too, but by the same token, Trump didn't talk much about the economy either. Neither one of the parties want to talk about the economy because it's not good. It doesn't look like it is going to be good. I don't know. How was the stock market today? Do you know?
It keeps going up and down. And, that's one of the things, what was Trump's first big promise when he was running? He said, for day one, I will bring prices down. Remember that? Right. We're on day 50 yes. And the prices are still going up. I used to pay $1.20 for a 16-ounce bottle of Diet Coke. $1.20. Today it's $2.50. Now, it doesn't seem like, okay, I could do without Diet Coke. In fact, I've stopped drinking it because I've just refused to pay that much. But it's a symbol of what's happening to our economy. And we're being told, oh, it's good. And the other side are not talking about it. I think crime and the economy are the two things that if Democrats could push aside those loudmouth screamers and get back to, shoring up our economy and coming up with good policies that are fair but strong to defend the police, I think they might be able to recover from this. But they don't have any good leaders. I just don't see any good leaders anymore. Who's talking?
You mean you don't think that what's that one from New York?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. No, she's not a great leader, and her group, that she was part of, that constantly fought and defended Biden, and then fought with Trump, and then split over Biden. They did a lot of damage by not focusing on the right issues, and they dragged the Democratic Party down. It's just terrible. Warner, all these people that, these so-called leaders, I can't believe they're that bad. It's just no leadership. This is, you know, they still have three years and 10 months, 10.5 months,
Hard to believe.
to get better. But that's going to be a long 3 years and 10 months, Bill.
Well, I have to tell you one other thing. When I was talking to one of the Trumpers about the speech, uh, he says to me, that woman, Ocasio, when she was going to Washington the first time, she said she couldn't afford to buy an apartment or rent an apartment in Washington because she was only making $175,000 as a member of the House. But you know what has happened since she's been there? She now has $250 million that she has been given, to live on. I said, now hold it, hold the phone. A member of Congress can only earn or take a small percentage of money from other employment in Congress. I know when I was there, it was 15,000. You couldn't take anything more than 15,000. So how could she possibly have accumulated 200? And the guy says, I heard it on the radio the other day.
Yeah, right. Well, we've heard that about a lot of members of Congress and the Senate. They go in poor and they're multimillionaires. Nancy Pelosi is a multimillionaire. Republicans, multimillionaires. That's something that each side uses to attack each other. But I don't think anybody's ever gotten down to it. And you know what? This disruption that we had when Trump was speaking, we had disruptions when Biden was speaking. Do you remember those?
Absolutely.
There were some terrible things, and it was just horrible. So it's not like a disruption is bad, but the message of the disruption was bad this time. What they tried to present, you see people that are injured or families that lost people, someone that is dying of cancer or somebody that was killed by foreigners. You show sympathy for that, even if you don't agree with Trump. He used them as props, but you have to go along with it. You got to show people you care. Not showing that you care says that there's something hardcore in their hatred of Trump that has taken them away from reason in terms of politics. They can't seem to embrace reasonable politics anymore. That, to me, is a bad sign for the Democrats. Nationally, I think I don't know how they're going to get out of this. Even many Democrats I talked to were just embarrassed by the way they acted and how they responded.
Hey, Ray, how come you cut me off the screen, Ray?
That was Trump. He didn't like something we said, but then realized we were actually saying good things, and he brought us back. I'm not sure.
No, I'm not on the screen. Can you see me?
Yes, I can. You're good. If you don't see,
fine.
It is recording.
I can't see myself, but I can always look in the mirror.
I wonder what happened. Go ahead. This technology, they're the worst. Technology is worse. The techies are worse than politicians, Bill. Believe me.
What's the latest on the Ukraine and Russia? Have you heard anything new?
Well, only that I see this trend where because Volodymyr Zelensky, I think, is a decent person and realizes he's up against a giant monster and he's losing the one country that could have helped put the new Soviets in check. He is coming around to try to be nice. I understand he's going to go to Saudi Arabia to meet with Marco Rubio. By the way, I never really liked Marco Rubio, but when I was watching them beat up on Zelensky during that meeting in the Oval Office, and they're yelling at him and everybody's calling him names, that Marco Rubio had this pained look on his face.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like he was very disturbed by this was going in the wrong direction.
That's not his style. No. He's a sane, responsible, reasonable country club Republican.
Yeah, I think that, but I think Zelensky has surrendered in this argument because he knows that he's going to get support from Western Europe, and they've stood up to help them. But the United States is a major part of this war against the communists. They're like 60%. If they step out of it and they kiss Putin, the whole Western world is screwed, in my opinion. So,
Listen, did your parents ever come out of Cuba?
no, no,
You're the only
actually,
guy I know of that talks about communists as much today as you do. I
listen,
admire you. I think that Putin is still a dyed-in-the-wool commie, but nobody else besides you calls him that.
well, we gave up, years ago when I was growing up. We were in school and we had to go into the hallway and hide, put our hands over our head, saying the nuclear bomb was going to strike. We got to protect ourselves, not knowing that we'd all be disintegrated. And then we'd sit under our desks like, oh, the radiation, is going to get us, and not knowing again that we were going to be totally destroyed. The Sputnik going over our heads when we were kids, the threat at the, Khrushchev making threats about starting a nuclear war, the fighting with Castro in Cuba. Those were really scary times. You cannot get that communist fear mongering that took place then out of your memory.
I agree with you.
Very hard. So I can't get past that. And I'm surprised that so many people are willing to say, who cares? It's not a problem anymore. It's a big mistake, and we'll be back to where we were in the 1950s. All right, but
listen, I go all the way back to Joe McCarthy when he was fighting for America, exposing all those communists in government.
Yes, and didn't we learn about Neville Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, who tried to appease Hitler by saying, take Czechoslovakia, and the Sudetenland. If that's all you want, we can live with that. And then sure enough, he invaded Poland. I don't know if it was months after or whatever. That's the kind of appeasement the communists love to see. They take advantage of it, and we can't be that way. So that's the only problem I have with Trump. Some of his policies, I think that the Republicans are showing they're better organized than the Democrats. I'm worried about the tariff war, but people say, oh, that's just negotiation on Trump's part. I don't know. We've seen the market collapse. It goes down 600 points. 20 years ago, 600 points was a lot. Today, 600 points is 1.2% of the market. So it is going down. It's not good, but I don't see any. I guess I'd feel better if I saw Trump doing something about the economy, and I haven't seen that yet. So that worries me, this whole thing. It concerns me.
Well, getting back to Zelensky and Saudi Arabia, did you say that our Secretary of State is going to meet with him there?
Yeah, that's what I heard this morning, that they're going to travel to the Gulf, and the Saudis are going to act, not with the Russians, but they're going to act as mediators to try and bring the two sides together. Now, I guess if I were to go in a car dealership, Bill, and I wanted to buy a car, and the guy wanted me to pay well, I guess a typical car today, I was at the auto show, probably a good car is going to be $80,000. I don't start yelling and screaming at the salesman and throw my stuff down and say, I'm going to file a lawsuit, I'm going to do that, hoping that he's going to cut the price down. You negotiate in a responsible way and you bring the price down, or I say, thank you, I'm going to go someplace else, and they feel like, oh, we lost the customer. Maybe we better bring our prices down. That's not what Trump is doing. I don't like his negotiating style of confrontation and attack. It's not good.
No, I don't like his style either. And I don't like when he said that, to Zelensky, you don't have the cards, so don't be the tough guy. Don't try to be the big guy. There's only one big guy in this room.
Yeah, and never mind that for 3 years, the Ukrainian army stood up to the worst tyrannical military tyrant in the world, the Russians. the Russians, who said that they were going to rush through Ukraine in 3 days, and he has held them off, not completely, but very strongly for over 3 years. It's just ironic to belittle him like that. That's ego. That's a side of Trump I don't like either. I think it's a weak side that he has. So now I'm even more depressed, Bill.
Don't be Ray. There's always a silver lining.
A third party.
Right.
There could be a third party. Listen, we've been around 30 years or whatever, 50 years. And I will tell you that maybe it's time that we have a new party. We've changed parties. We've seen parties come and go. They morphed, they changed. I think the Democratic Party, the big story out of his speech wasn't what he said, but how the Democrats reacted so poorly, so unstrategically, and just doing a terrible job to make him look even better than he said he was. That is not easy to do.
We need two strong parties in this country in order to have the system operate the way the founding fathers meant.
Yeah. All right, Bill. It's going to be a lot of wishful thinking on our part. We're in for a very disruptive period. I mean, I know this is hard to say, but and people would say, no, it's not possible. But you could see a civil war erupt. That is a sign of a problem. You could see violence being used, to change politics. I'm not sure whether it be a civil war like we had in the 1860s or a new version of a civil war that might include other things, all our technology, all our politics, and all the messaging. It could be a terrible time for us.
Ray, let's save that for a future program. All right.
Okay,
I'm not prepared to go into that, although I concur with you. That is a distinct possibility, unfortunately. But let's talk about it sometime in the near future.
All right, Bill. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski. This is Two Guys on Politics, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.